Ooby-doo, it's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast. And you may have watched a whole bunch of videos by myself about all the lenses that I've experimented with and the results I got. And what I'm doing here is a compendium of best of the best. These are like photos that I posted online on media sharing sites like 500px or Unsplash, or and I just cropped them and resized them to fit the screen, which is 1920 by 1080. A lot of them I processed some by judicious sharpening or maybe adjusting the levels and the contrast and the saturation, but it's very minimal. And I used a whole bunch of different cameras too. And what I did is I pulled out the EXIF information and I pasted it in a picture so you could see what camera I used. And if the lens coupled with the camera, you could see what lens I used. But a lot of them were vintage lenses and I left that blank. And these are just two vintage lenses I don't particularly care for. This is the Nikon AF Nikkor, 24 to 50 millimeter, 3.5 to 4.5D. And you have to stop it down to f22, 16, or 11. Plus, this is variable aperture. It has two dots here. See, this is yellow and that's yellow. And you see that's green and that's green. Well, depending what your zoom range is in, if you want to use this manually on a camera where it doesn't couple, then you got to realize where you are in your zoom range and set your aperture to that spot. Of course, if you put it on like a camera that couples with it, then the camera takes care of all that crazy stuff. Now, this is a 24 to 50 millimeter, and this is a 135. This is a Saya Optical Company Takamar bayonet, which means it's made in Taiwan. This is a 135 2.5. Now, this lens is better than mediocre, but it's not outstanding. It is capable of taking really excellent pictures, but then in the same token, you'll get some crappy pictures with flare or low contrast. So they're both well-made looking and handcrafted, but well, they're just not super great, outstanding lenses. That for just a little bit more money, you could get something vintage that it really is outstanding. And I'm not trashing these lenses; they're perfectly adequate. And if you spent $100 on them, that's Nikon goes with Nikon. What's the matter with me? You'll get pretty decent results. In fact, this lens, the Takamar bayonet, is better than this, but it's a prime lens. You got to expect that, and it's a 135, so it's got that going for it too. And like I said, if you stop down 11, 16, 22, you'll get decent results. 8, 5.6, and 3.5, well, you just forget about it. But you can find that out on yourself. Don't take my word for it. So without further doggy-do, which is different than without further ado, let's get right into the photos and check them out. What have I learned from my experiments with all these cameras and lenses? Never buy new. That's the main takeaway. Vintage lenses are used, and you can get excellent examples really cheap. And your best digital cameras are used, and you can get those in excellent condition for half price, quarter price, third price. Do it. Don't be a slave to techno-lust. I had techno-lust. I stepped up from the original Canon Digital Rebel, which was 6 megapixel. Then I went to the XT, which was 8. Then I went to the XTI, which was 10. But then I bought some used Pentax DSLRs. Now you got to understand, each one of these DSLRs is like $600 or $700. But when I went used, I was getting them for $100 because no one wants them. Who wants a 6 megapixel DSLR? Well, if you just want to play with it and take pictures, you can't go wrong with it. And they're nice picture takers. This is the Pentax K200D. Excellent camera. It has its limitations, but when within the bounds of its limitations, it's an excellent camera. Now, did I backtrack from my course of action? Of course I did. I subsequently bought the Canon DSLR T1i, which is an excellent camera. It takes excellent pictures, although it does not have an articulated LCD screen, and when you're in HD movie mode, it drains the battery like in 5 minutes. But other than that, it's a really nice camera. What other cameras did I buy new after that? Well, I bought the DSLR, Canon DSLR SL2, because it had a built-in time-lapse movie mode. But then I also bought the Canon PowerShot G7 Mark II because it had built-in movie time-lapse mode. But then I bought used the Canon Z50, which I believe has a built-in time-lapse movie mode. But then I bought, I bought used the Canon the Nikon Z6. Some guy bought it. It was brand new. He said he didn't like it. So I got the Z6, the FTZ adapter, and he sold me the 200mm f4 micro Nikkor, which is an excellent lens. So always buy used, always buy used. And this guy, he wanted to buy it back from me, but I never, wheeled and deal with him. It's a nice camera. Why do I want to get rid of it? I'll just keep it until it's only worth $100, and I'll still keep on using it. So if you look at, if you're reading the EXIF data, you could see I use the Z50 a lot. I use the Sony 5000 series of mirrorless cameras a lot because you can stick vintage lens on them, and there's all sorts of adapters for vintage lenses for these new modern mirrorless cameras. If you look at DSLRs, you're locked into that ecosystem. Like Canon EF, well, you're locked into that. The Nikon F-mount DSLRs, well, you're sort of locked into that also. Like the AF models and the D models, you're sort of locked into that. Of course, you could use vintage F lenses on the Nikon DSLRs, but you're still in that ecosystem. Now, same thing with Pentax. Pentax has their K-mount. You could use all sorts of K-mount lenses on it, but you're still locked into the K-mount ecosystem. Whereas with these mirrorless cameras, you could use any ecosystem. For example, at the Z6, this one company, Fringer, they made a Canon EF to Nikon Z mount adapter where you could put any Canon EF lens on that, and that bad boy works. So you can have the best of both worlds, an excellent camera body from Nikon and all this fantastic Canon glass. Outstanding. I like to use fisheye lenses. Fisheye lenses work really well on mirrorless cameras. I have a real cheap 8mm, a Bauer, and I have the FD Canon fisheye 15mm. 50mm, oh, it's much more sharper. It's got excellent clarity to it, but it's a fisheye, and you got to use it judiciously, without a doubt. So remember, don't buy new, get used. That's the best bang for your buck. I mean, say the Nikon Z, like this, what are they up to? The Z9 now? They're like $2,000 or something just for a body. So get it used. I can't say enough good about the Z50. You get one of those for $500, and it's an excellent camera. Oh, it's a crop sensor, but it's 20 megapixels. It has a lot of features in the menu you can adjust and customize. But if you take Canon, the Canon, like the XT series or the T series, they don't have too many adjustments because they're more consumer orientated, but they're built in to take good pictures anyway. Yes, you can make some adjustments, but they take good pictures out of the box, properly exposed, the right contrast and everything. So you can't go wrong with to use Canon DSLR. And even the Pentax takes excellent pictures. But let's face it, they're more of a daylight camera. You know, you could go long exposure with them and stuff. But I know I had excellent results, but I don't think they're as versatile as some of the more modern mirrorless cameras, without a doubt. So you're looking at what are all the things I like to take pictures of. I walk around, I see something cool, I take a picture, I go back to the same place over and over again, different seasons, different times of the day, different lighting conditions, sunny, cloudy, whatever, and I get to take all these cool pictures. And that's the thing. I was able to take a lot of cool pictures from experimenting. You know, I want to see, what did this lens do? How does it perform on this body? How does it perform on that body? Is it really a good lens? Is it a bad lens? And I've only came across one or two pretty poor lenses, and almost all of them were adequate. And yes, some were outstanding, sure, without a doubt. But, you know, you could go back and look at all my previous blogs and see what I did and make your own conclusions. Or you could go out and just buy a lens and shoot with it and see what it does. You know, maybe you get a dog, you don't like it for some reason, so you sell it or give it away, or and then get another one and see what happens. Most vintage lenses are available for in the $100 range. You could get excellent, outstanding, classic vintage lenses for $100, $150 in excellent, perfect condition. If you want to get a lens that's been beat up or dragged around some rough corners, yeah, you could get them cheaper. I have some banged up lenses that were given to me. I guess they were dropped or something, mostly 50 millimeters. And they still work fine, all banged up. So, but the old school lenses, they were made out of aluminum, and aluminum, like say the filter ring was sacrificial. So if you dropped the lens, the filter ring would dent, so you couldn't put a filter on it, but the lens wasn't destroyed. You could still use it. That's been my experience. Oh, sure, I got some top-notch glass like the L series, the Canon L series. And yes, the L stands for legendary. They're excellent pieces of glass. But Canon makes some excellent non-L lenses that should have L on them, without a doubt. But, you know, like I said, you're on a budget, you want to go cheap, sure, go on your budget, go cheap, get a cheap lens. But the main thing is to go out and shoot pictures. And what is the photographer's philosophy? Take pictures or die. That's what you have to do. And with digital, all right, you buy the camera, you make that investment, you buy a memory card, you pick up a couple cheap lenses, and then you can take all the pictures you want. The only cost is recharging your battery. You know, download it to your hard drive. That's it. You know, maybe posting it to a file sharing site like 500px or Unsplash or Instagram or something, you know, just to get your pictures out there. So you just got to go with it. That's all. Just find an excuse to take pictures. F1.2, 55 millimeter, a Nikon Z50, excellent lens. This is in the Constellation, that was an Ursa Major, I believe. So, like I said, the Z50, I seem to be using that a lot. It's small, it's lightweight, it's packed with features, it takes excellent pictures. If you put a good lens on it, you get excellent results. Or if you put a crappy lens on it, you're going to get crappy results. But you can still get artistic pictures with it. So, you know, and then, like I said, the Sony ILCE 5000 series, where's the 5000 or 5100, they used to be dirt cheap, but they seem to be going up in price instead of going down. But, you know, I got mine, so I'm cool. Here's a Sony picture. I hooked it up to a telescope, a 1200 millimeter Maxitov type telescope, 5-inch diameter. I took this picture of the moon with it. And the lake, you know, you got a lake nearby or a park, or you just keep going there every day. You live in a city, walk down around the block or go over a block and take pictures. That's what you have to do. Go out and take pictures. And look at fine detail or things that are close by. They say, oh, look at the big picture. Yeah, the big picture's nice, but look at the minute detail also. You know, that's what you have to do. juxtapose everything. Taking pictures of water droplet ripples, that's a hard thing to do. You know, the angle of the camera, the angle of the drops, how many drops are going. Rainbows. Oh, I love rainbows. I sometimes see a whole bunch of them, then some you don't see any of them. There used to be a pot of gold under them until they were culturally appropriated. Long exposure, handheld long exposure. You know, just start playing with things. You know, you got a memory card, just take 20 pictures in a row and adjust the parameters a little bit and see which one sticks, which one is good. That's all. These, the two pictures, the first one and this one, they were taken at the same spot, but on a different time of the day and with different lenses. So, you know, that's just the way it is. And here's a totally different system for reads nearby, but not those reads. You know, if you get reads all over, you got a park or a river to go by, just go check it out. If you live in a town, go to the next town over and take some pictures. You know, sure, you explore your backyard, but explore your front yard too, as I like to say. And then cities are always in motion and under development and urban renewal. It's out with the old and in with the new, and there's always something happening. Some cities remain stable, more historic, and others, you know, they rip things down and put new things up. You have a garden with some roses in it? Well, go out and take pictures of your roses and stop and smell them too while you're there. So it's got to keep going, take pictures, take pictures. You know, pink roses photograph the best. I always have trouble with the deep red roses on all my cameras. The red roses are the toughest thing to take pictures of. Climb a mountain. You know, see what's on top of a mountain or a ridge top. Just check it out, see what it's all about. That's what you got to do. Here's some Starlink satellites in some sort of squadron of them. 3.2 seconds. Yeah, that was a f1.2 lens, a vintage lens that was probably 60 years old. You go back to the same place, different seasons. Everything looks different. Even if you go at the exact same time, the lighting is going to be different 3 months from now. You know, if you go there at 2:30 in the afternoon in July, it's going to look like mid-afternoon. But if you go there at 2:30 in the afternoon in December, it's going to look like almost evening. And if you could take the same picture of things with one camera and another, and you could see, you know, what does it do? How does it work? What does it all mean? I love car shows. Yeah, car shows are so cool. Classic cars. You know, of course, mostly the old classic cars are American because we made the most amount of cars. And then, you know, it's amazing how towns could have like a main street, and then you look down the side street, and there's like some dystopian railroad tracks, and then you know, there could be found car shows. There could be some slick car or truck in a parking lot. And Turkles, I like Turkles. They're pretty cool. You know, sitting on a log. This is taken with a 50 millimeter, a zoom, 50 millimeter max. Same thing with this. This is a 50 millimeter max zoom. And, you know, just crop them. I mean, if you're going to go place them in a movie that's a 920 by 1080, you know, 20 megapixel, that's like a digital zoom. So you could, you know, get, and then this shows you, is this a good lens or not? When you're doing that, when you're doing a 5x crop, you know, and you're checking it out intensely. I don't go to the city anymore. The city scares me. The city's New York City. I stay away from it. You know, it's I go to off the beaten path places. You know, little backwater places, whether it's a park or a town. So explore that. It all depends what time of day you're there. In the morning, in late winter or early spring, it'll look different than at the height of summer. Definitely, without a doubt. And, you know, you got to do the water thing. Water and all its motions and states. And water is so cool. Flowers, they bloom at different times, so there's always something to take pictures of. Here's a world famous chateau. I'm not going to tell you where it is. You have to discover where it is on your own. Yield to coffee, right? Everyone needs their coffee fix in the morning. This is a zombie sign about zombies. I mean, this is for Halloween, and I took this picture in like March or something. And what does that say?